gentlemen, welcome to another show of Fuente and Meerapfel present Meet the Professor. Hello, world.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Carlito, where are you? Where is
Hey.
Carlito?
In one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
Amazing.
Santiago de los Caballeros.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you all know how it works. You got to get a bobblehead. You got to go to the most beautiful places on the planet. You got to shoot a picture, send it over to Fuente, and they have the most unbelievable, what do you want to call it? Competition on the planet, where we find pictures of Carlito everywhere in the world, and it's called Where is Carlito? Hey, Professor, what's on the menu today?
Well, on the menu today, there's going to be some things you're going to announce later on. And I just want to go through what the show's really been about. Because you cannot, I know that you've gotten a lot of calls. Carlito's got a call, Melanie also. Our show is different from any other show. Like Carlito says many times, you said, I've said it. We're not here to promote. We're here to talk about love. We've talked about the good, the bad, the ugly, what all the companies have gone through. But if you look at the people we've talked to, Ernesto Perez Carillo, Benji Menendez, the Turren family, the Fuente family, the Meerapfel family, what do they all have in common? It's not so much, the money is important, but it's not the bottom line. It's the tradition. What all these people that I've mentioned have done for thousands and thousands of people in different continents, in Africa, in the Caribbean, in Central America, the pride, generation after generation, going through struggles, revolutions, war, coup d'etat, losing everything, starting again. Big companies will always have all that money in the world, do what they have to do. But for small companies that today are a worldwide symbol of tradition, of honesty, of consistency, of making amazing cigars, it's a bit different. So I want to talk a little bit about all the people we've had and the things that the Fuentes, the Meerapfels, the Olivas, the Placencias that soon will be on us. What is the common denominator that all of these families have? Carlito?
I agree with you, Jose.
Thank you.
Hey, that's not common, but it's only Tuesday. We still got up to Friday to disagree. But there's no question about it. I mean, you mentioned families, and there's many, many more with a long tradition and a multi-generational, and even some families only that have been, I don't want to say only, because that's incorrect, but have been in the cigar business for 10, 20 years. It's family. It's family. It's about values. It's about, passion. It's about loving your customers. You have to love your customers. I think that's the key. You have to feel committed, and you have to feel a deep, intense obligation that they are depending on you. You have to come through for them. You strive to make them happy. When I say customers, I mean from all our retailers, distributors, and obviously the consumer, because they're the ones that make our world go round. And without them, they are part of the love. They are part of the motivation for love. And we do a lot of things because we pay tribute to our tradition and our love for our families. But, this world has changed so much, as I have said several times on previous shows, that my grandfather didn't have the blessing to meet the people that enjoyed his cigars outside of his neighborhood and very small little markets, which, he was associated with. It was not common, back in the 40s or 50s, as people who know the manufacturer was. They bought cigars in the corner grocery store or pharmacy, or, just a smoke shop, down the street. And Broadway, Avenue, Manhattan or Madison or someplace, but they didn't get to actually interact with the owners and so forth. And I think that in my generation or in the younger generation, since in the last 30, 35 years, we have to be very grateful, starting with Cigar Aficionado, who took manufacturers out of the closet who were hidden, because other than the tobacconists, no one really knew the manufacturers, that they didn't have an opportunity to go to a trade show or so forth. And since Cigar Aficionado and so many other media and so forth, we've had an opportunity to meet people all over the world. And there are some people that maybe I met 5 years ago, and they mean as much to me, and I love them as much as somebody that I've known for 40 or 50 years. The relationships that are built, to me, that's, I don't speak about cigars, but a lot of times people ask what inspires you to blend, create, or to really go out of your way to produce something, quote unquote, as good as humanly possible. And it's the smiles that I receive all around the world from different people and the love I receive. And I think that's the key. I think that's the key with all the families that you mentioned and many, many more, is the love for tobacco, obviously, the love for their industry, the love for their craft, and most important, the love for the people, whether it's the thousands of people that you work side by side with, or it's the thousands of people that you have met that enjoy your products and enjoy other products from some of our colleagues. It's all, I've said many times, we're all one. This is one beautiful world. And cigars, when you have a cigar, as you mentioned, Professor, cigar melts all boundaries. It melts all borders. It melts all ideas, different ideas and everything. We all become one through a cigar, and the pursuit of the finer things and actually the simpler things in life that bring so much pleasure.
Absolutely correct, Jeremiah.
What the hell do you want me to add after that? After Carlito, you can't talk because he's so precise and he's leading this whole thing. I mean, of course I agree. How can I not agree? I've been taught the values which came out of Carlito's mouth, my father's, and all the other people who raised me. No, there's nothing to say.
We have listened. I mean, just listen to Ernie and to Benji. And precisely yesterday, I called and we talked for about an hour. So I wanted him to talk a little bit about some regions of Cuba and things like that. And you listen to a man with 85 years old and still has that will to talk about tobacco. We talked for about an hour, Benji and I, yesterday. And you could see still that passion in him, asking me what's new, what's happening. He was very happy with some gifts that he received from Carlito and from Cynthia. He spoke with Cynthia the other day, and he was amazed. He has a group of people that get together, and he's not one of those guys that hoards everything out. He's always been kind and shares his stuff, and he was just amazed, and we talked a lot. And before, even when I was working with Carlito and I would always talk. And one time Carlito needed his phone number. I can't remember for something. He called him when somebody passed away in DR. But he always would ask me, have you seen Carlito? Have you been to the factory? I'm seeing this. So a man at 85 years old still has that interest, and he's talking still about tobacco, and still he's teaching me things that I want to know, because unfortunately, and we've said it many times, he is the last of the living legends. So I'm trying to at least once a week,
Professor?
45 minutes.
Professor?
Yes.
I disagree.
What?
Don't say that. He's not the last of the living legends. Carlito Fuente.
The oldest.
No. Don't start with that shit. If you told me Carlito Fuente was the last of the living legends, I would maybe say yeah. But Benji Menendez is certainly one.
But thank you for your thoughts. But I hope someday I could fill Benjamin Menendez's shoes. And,
Listen, this is not about who's
I got a
filling.
long ways to go.
This
Pablo.
is not about who's filling whose shoes. I know that you're a humble cigar maker. I know that I know how you feel about yourself, but you need to accept how everybody else feels about you. And even though this show is not about Fuente, it's not about cigars, it's not about all of that, I'm known to express what I feel and what I think. And I say what I think, and I think what I say, and I think that this is important. And Professor, I know you agree with me. He's the eldest of the living legends.
Yes.
And thank God, there's maybe one or two or whatever that will continue to live. Let's say he's the last of the old Cuban born living legends.
Okay, I could agree on that one, but what I'm saying is,
if not, we're going to get into a fight.
Yeah, you're too far away. But what I'm saying is that for me to talk to him and ask him things about a country that I visit a couple of times that doesn't affect us, but someday we wish they will have freedom, have liberty, and have the greatness that they had before, that's something we cannot deny. But to hear him talking and still not worried, but wants to know what's happening, how's everybody doing? He's concerned about our industry. He wishes everybody a lot. And I got to tell you something, what he said the other day about companies and the difference between big companies and small companies or family companies. I said after the show, I called him up and I said, Uncle Benji, was great what you said. You know what his words was? I'm 85 years old. What are they going to do? Fire me?
Isn't it amazing, Professor, that, such an amazing human being such as Benji, somebody who's had such an experience, such a life, isn't it amazing that he now can go out there and speak his mind and tell people exactly how he feels and the way he feels it? Isn't that a blessing for all of us and a blessing for all of the people out there who deserve to hear just simply the truth?
No, I agree 100%. I mean, because you can be 110 years old and get on a program and say a whole bunch of things, but you don't have the credibility. Because you got to remember, this is a guy that was his family was multi-millionaires in the 50s in Cuba and left without anything. He went to Canary Islands. He was successful. Things didn't work out, and he says it's so good in Brazil, but then he was in Nicaragua, he was in Honduras, he was in DR. He came back. He was VP at Consolidated. He was VP at General. But that's why I said he is an amazing man. And I mean, to be honest, Carlito knows him much longer than I, because I've only known Benji for 23, 24 years. But Carlito's known him since he was a little kid.
I've known him since I was a big kid. And yeah. No, I remember him the first time he came to the office in Ybor City in Tampa and coming to see my dad when he used to go by. And I remember, Benji, how fascinating I was. I was starstruck, but he was just like, even the first time I met him, how could I describe him? Just so, so proper, such a gentleman, soft-spoken, talking about tobacco, talking about this, talking about life with my father. And seemed like someone that came across like someone that I had known all my life. And he's just an amazing man. I said it last time, you can't meet a more sweeter, giving, kind-hearted human being in your life. I mean, there are many, of course, but he's up there with the best of the best. And he's a man that's always been open. Most importantly, I admire him because he's a professor. And with all the knowledge and experience he has, I don't think there's anything that pleases him more than to teach and to see early generations, see young people that are around his organization or around them that he could pass on information, motivate them, inspire them. And to me, this is one of the great attributes of any great man, is that you pass it on, you teach, and you help people, the inroads, give them the inroads of your experiences, which will hopefully assist them throughout life. And Benjamin Menendez is an example of that human being, just a great professor. He's a great, tobacco man. No one knows more than him or has the experience. It was such a huge honor. I was so happy to see him and everything. It's just incredible, huge honor. And I hope that for his 90th birthday, we could interview him again, because I'm sure he's going to have a lot more stories to tell us, because his stories haven't finished yet. I mean, as you said, Professor, he's on the phone with everybody. He's very much in touch with the industry, even though he did not admit it, but his heart is there. That's his heart and soul, and that will never change.
Oh yeah, that's, you could be sure, it's funny because last night, and I knew that in Cuba, the cigars were entubado all the time. So I was talking to him about, doing an estrujado, doing entubado, doing different things. And his theory is, the way that it's done at Fuente, and Ernesto does it that way. Not everybody does entubado. But he says, nephew, let me tell you something. Of course, everybody has its own way of making the cigars, but take my word, there's no better smoke than a cigar that's entubado, because there is no way that cigar is not going to have a perfect draw. So he still is a big fan of, do the cigars entubado. And he says, for those people who don't understand it, because entubado, just tell them it's like little straws. How can little straws be plugged?
When you don't bunch them properly.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. But also, you have to concentrate to make an entubado cigar. It's takes longer. You make fewer cigars, so to do them properly, you have to concentrate exactly what you're doing. And if you put too much tobacco in it, or you twist your leaves when you're rolling or something, it still could affect the draw. But there's no question about it that entubado, even though it's much more difficult, and it takes more time to make a cigar, you have to be very, very careful. You need certain leaves, you need bigger leaves to be able to entubado, and they have to be in a perfect condition. But I'm going to say this. I mean, there's entubado and there's entubado. Not all cigars, even though they make them in tubes, are done properly. If you make an entubado and you don't make it, and you don't make it just right, it's no different when you roll your cigar, that you're putting, you're booking in a sense. You can still book entubado if you don't make your tubes tight and go very slowly. So, there's a lot to cigar making, and it's all the little details that accumulate to something that's extraordinarily significant. But I believe in entubado. I believe it. It was very uncommon when we started teaching entubado. It was not common in the Dominican Republic. And we started teaching for a different reason. It was a different way to make cigars. And today, more and more people are using entubado. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
One of the things that I've seen in different factories is that, Carlito can elaborate on that, also that in entubado, and Benji talked a lot about it, the most deep, even all the leaves, it's very important, but he says that viso or that ligero is the most important one out of them. He says they're all important, but that ligero or that viso will make or break the cigar, can canoe, can tunnel, and all of that. It's not put in the proper position. Benji emphasized a lot on that also.
That's so true. That's so true. The rate of combustion and the moisture and so forth has a big, big, big influence on how the cigar will burn. And by nature, the ligero is a slower burning tobacco. It absorbs moisture. So by nature, usually, and not usually, but it will burn slower. It has to be in the middle, because when you make a cigar, you need certain moisture for the wrapper and the binder. And the filler, you've heard this many times, Jose, this is the old school teaching. the cigar maker, the filler, be in perfect condition. You should put it near your ear, you squeeze it, and you kind of hear a little cracking, but you never break filler. That's when it's perfect. You don't want it too wet. But what happens, the binder has more moisture than the wrapper has moisture. In the first weeks after the cigar is made, the moisture from the binder and filler is absorbed into the core of the cigar. And this is the worst time to smoke a cigar. They say the best time is right after it's made, or, you know, after 3 or 4 weeks after. But the worst time to smoke a cigar is a week or so later, because that moisture has been absorbed by the tobaccos in the inside. And my father always taught me that it's like a wound you cut yourself. That even though you see the outside that it's already been cured or so forth, it's still sensitive and the wound has not cured from the inside. You have to let the cigar dry from the inside out, and for the humidity to be uniform for you to be able to enjoy the cigar. And that's where I believe in aging and so forth, to give it the time for this transformation to take place.
It's interesting that you say that, because I don't know if this has happened to you. I've been in a cigar shop. All of a sudden, like, we never mention brands, somebody's smoking a cigar, and he says, I'm picking so much, how would you say, what's the word? I'm picking up so much bitterness to it. And I look at the cigar, the guy maybe smoked an inch and a half, and I take it, and I can say, look, I'm gonna buy you a cigar just to show you something, maybe even the same cigar. I can guarantee you 100%, I'm gonna take off the wrapper, I'm gonna take off the binder, we're gonna open it up, and I can guarantee you that there's a lot of moisture in these leaves. And majority of the time, I'm not gonna say I've been 100% correct. When you open up the cigar, you take those long leaves and you put your hand on them, and you can feel that it had an excess of humidity in it. And you're totally correct. That's what a lot of people don't understand. It's not only that you have good aged tobacco and good rollers, but when they're working in La Galera there, the tobacco has to be in optimum conditions so it doesn't have that problem and creates that bitterness in it. Because even if it goes into the aging room, it's not going to dry sufficient to take away that bitterness that a cigar has.
Oh, absolutely. The moisture has a big influence on the cigar. If a cigar has too much moisture on the inside, it's going to be bitter. It's not going to burn properly. How many times have I experienced that you walk in a smoke shop, they say it's 70% humidity, but actually if you were to take an accurate measure, reading, it might be 74 or 76. And the cigars pick up that moisture. Tobacco, I was always taught, is like a sponge. It picks up any moisture, picks up any aromas or scents nearby. And always, that's one thing, like in cigar factories, or even at home, if you put cream on your hands and it has perfume, you pick up a cigar, you ruin your cigar will pick it up. In the same manner where it picks up hints of cedar or woods or things that are, where it's aged. But the moisture is so important. And one thing that I've discovered over the years with different aging rooms and different temperatures and everything is that all different blends react differently to moisture and humidity, and as do the wrappers especially. Some wrappers require a higher humidity for them to be, for the utmost of their taste to come out and to protect them also, of course. And some wrappers are so oily that they need very little, they need less humidity. I don't want to say very little, less humidity, and to get the right taste and everything. And humidity has a direct influence on how your cigar will smoke.
I think we have a couple of questions from some of our fans in there.
Melanie.
Yes.
It's the hot spot.
Oh, who do I get to ask?
There's a bunch of questions coming in. I think Dimitri's asked a few ones.
I did see that.
Should we pull them in? What do you think? Let's pull them in. All right, Dimitri, you're online, buddy.
Hi, Jeremiah.
How you doing?
Fine, thanks. Smoking outside, so
That's
everything's
good.
Well, one of the questions I had is I smoked a lot of Asian shares, and I smoked one at the beach in the Dominican Republic, but I also smoked one on the top of the mountain on the Dolomites, and I experienced taste difference. Is that because of the air pressure, because of the height, because of the wind? How does that, how from where does this taste difference comes?
I'm going to give my opinion, but I would also like to hear Carlito's and Jeremiah's opinion. I've always considered, I've been asked that question so many times, and I have a simple answer for that. It's what I call state of mind. What you eat, what you drink, if it's hot, if it's cold, what you're pairing with, what's your mood. Let's say that day on the beach, which to be honest, to smoke on the beach, it's kind of a little bit hard because of the wind factor, even though it's enjoyable, but it also comes to state of mind. So how were you that day? Were you doing the same pairing that day? How was your state of mind? Were you stressful or not stressful? Were you, both days, were you totally in complete control of happiness? I mean, if you factor all those things in, and I can tell you because I have cigars that I love, and depending on the day and my stress and what I've eaten and what's going on, I say to myself, is there something wrong with me or something wrong with the cigar? And I know the cigar is reliable. So at the end of the day, I think very much it has to do a lot with the person smoking the cigar.
I smoked an Angel Share in Las Vegas and did not have the same experience as when I smoked it in Florida.
What do you think, Carlito?
Who asked the question?
Okay, this is a question from Dimitri.
Dimitri. I got the question, Dimitri.
And Dimitri's asking if there's a, did you hear the question?
Yes, I did, of course. I've been listening.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Great question. I'm going to tell you my experiences, and that's all I can do, is I agree with you, Dimitri. There's no question about it. I agree. I don't have any laboratory or scientific proof what happens, but if you smoke cigars, let's say you're outdoors, and it depends on the cigar, obviously. Some cigars are affected more than others. I think the oilier cigars are affected more than some of the more light to medium cigars that, that are quicker burning and so forth. But I have gone through this my entire life. If I smoke a cigar sitting on a porch, and let's say, for example, it's raining, cigar is not, it depends on the cigar, but it'll pick up that moisture as you go smoking, and it'll get hot. If I smoke a cigar on the beach, it's chances are same thing. It keeps go out, get hot or go out. The humidity, it depends where you're at. Obviously, because I'm in the Caribbean and in Florida, where there could be a lot of humidity. I remember when cigars first started being rated and so forth, that I would go to an event, let's say a Big Smoke. And at that time, I would smoke cigars in my aging room and find a batch that I knew would absolutely, I tasted it here in Santiago in the factory. And that cigar was right on. The finish was so long, it had a sweetness, it had the spice. To me, it was it's a perfect cigar. And, as a cigar maker and a much younger man and everything that wanted to be recognized and help build our brand, I knew that these events, there would be very influential people. There'd be celebrities, but people are cigar lovers from all over. And I always took my cigars, and I wanted to have the perfect cigar to give out to someone that they would go, wow, what a great cigar and everything, and remember me. And I would get to, like, for example, New York City, and I would get a cigar because the night before, whatever, and I would light it, it's flat. And I say, wait a minute, I get another one? Same thing, something has happened to the cigar. And I learned what I do now when I travel. I get the cigars and take them out of the cellophane, and I put them in the drawer in the room, or I let the air conditioning hit it, let them for a while. Because for some reason, which I don't have a scientific, I think that even the air pressure on the planes and airplanes and everything have an effect on us. And where you smoke it have effect on others. Cigars And obviously in Vegas, you know, cigars could drive, you know, depends on, I think that the bottom line, I mean, to answer your question, from all these experiences that I have, I think that humidity, altitude, you know, how far you are from, you know, the ocean and what part of the, I don't know. I think that it does. And maybe it's mental for me. And it's just because my anxiety, I was so anxious to have a good cigar, but I believe that there is a difference, absolutely. And that's why when you receive cigars, when you open a box, it's like a bottle of wine, if I take that comparison. I believe that the cigars, for you to enjoy them, you got to open that box, you got to let them breathe, you put them in a place where the air is not going to really hit it or affect it or something, and take away some of the essential oils and aroma by drying it. But let it breathe, and let it become itself, you know, take it out of the box. And I think that that makes a difference. I've seen cigars change in 2 days just by removing them from the box and cellophane after traveling.
Mm.
And Carlito's absolutely right. Vegas, I think it's the worst place to smoke a cigar, because after the second day you're at the show, it doesn't matter what it is. Those cigars dry up so fast it's unbelievable. It's really crazy. Or in Arizona, or even in Colorado, because of the lack of humidity, it's just amazing how much it affects. And Carlito has a good point on how cigars, the condition of humidity, because I firmly believe that some cigars smoke better at 72, and I believe firmly that full flavor, full body cigars, heavy, smoke better at 66 and 67. So I think it's also something about preference, how people like them. The rule of thumb is 70-70, but that said, I've told people, if you really, really want to know how it affects and you have 2 or 3 humidors, just try with a mild cigar, with a medium body cigar, with a full body cigar, and you will see that at different temperatures, a different humidity, because temperature should always be 70, it could change a lot the smoke. That's my 2 cents on that.
Well, I'm going to try it out now because I have multiple humidors. So now we're going to test it.
Absolutely. I think there's one final point we can add in there. I think everything's been covered. I think the final point is oxygen levels, and that answers what Carlito was covering. So for the taste of the cigars, obviously, apart from the tobaccos, the way it's been rolled, it's yaddy-daddy, there's 3 major factors. There's humidity levels, which you've both covered. There's air pressure, which Carlito spoke about when he was referring to altitude, and then obviously there's the mix between the oxygen and the carbon dioxide in the air, and between pressure and the oxygen levels, this is going to modify the taste buds. It's going to modify perception on the tobacco, and the tobacco is going to have a different taste. So Dimitri, you're 100% spot on, and I think all 3 agree with you, which is maybe a first in this show.
Thank you. And I just want to add one thing about state of mind of the professor. Every time I'm smoking an angel share, I'm happy.
Yeah.
You know why? Because angels don't care about humidity, pressure, and oxygen levels. They care about your well-being. That was nice. Thank you very much, Dimitri.
Definitely true. But it's like smokers have different habits, how they light up their cigar. I think Carlito and I have seen combine more chewers and people who put that cigar all the way in their back, that you would say, what is he really smoking? I mean, he's had it there lit for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and what he's doing is chewing and chewing. Then he takes a puff and he keeps on chewing. I mean, people have different ways, and I think that we've seen a lot of the old timers. I don't think nowadays, to be honest, I see very of the 25, 30, 35-year-old people who are starting to smoke that are real-time chewers. So I think even that has changed a lot with the new generation.
It has. No, definitely it has.
I mean, we always mention Alphonse Meyer. I don't know why.
No, I don't. Yeah, I know. I thought think of Alphonse. First thing I thought of was that. But you know, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that we see less and less, because it's kind of embarrassing that you're trying to speak about a cigar to someone and in a taste and so forth, and you're trying to keep a straight face, and you look at a guy chewing a cigar and you see some stains all the way down his white shirt from him dripping. You know, makes it difficult to keep an honest conversation without.
Well, on the show,
Professor,
yeah,
I'd like to pull somebody onto the panel today.
of course.
Let's see if he comes on. It's a very special day for this gentleman. Jose, you want to turn your camera on and your mic?
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Happy birthday!
Happy
Thank
birthday,
you.
Jose.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday, Mr. Brito. How are you?
I'm good. How's everybody doing? That was unexpected.
Oh, good.
Well, let me
Hey,
tell you
¿qué
something.
pasa?
Anybody on our show who has their birthday deserves to be brought on, and for the world to applaud, to wish you a happy birthday, to wish you health, happiness, success, and everything you've always wished for, my dear friend.
Thank you, guys. I much appreciated. I will definitely be posting up later. Got a little bit more work to do, but I'll be taking the rest of the day off. And, you know, I'm going to do my birthday in style. You know, we'll maybe post out a couple of toys that I've been sitting on for a while from the Fuentes. So let's see what comes up later.
I know Mitchie will have something special for you today.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you.
I can see Carlito. Carlito wants to talk to you. I hear him. I hear him trying to connect. He has problems connecting. Carlito, can you hear us?
I could hear you. Let me see. Hold on.
Oh, there you are. You're back.
Am I mute?
There you go. We can hear you, Papo.
Okay, I don't know what happened. You shut me off. Did I say something wrong?
No, we were.
I just wanted to tell Jose, you know, just wish him a happy and blessed birthday. He's been a dear friend for a long time. He's a great human being, and just want to send my love and you know, wish him well, man, to enjoy his toys.
Thank you, Papo. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Papo. You're welcome.
Happy birthday, Jose, from the whole team. Happy birthday, brother.
Thanks for all the support.
Of course, always.
All right, back to you, Professor.
So we've talked about Benji. One guy we have to mention that's very close to Carlito, to me, and I know that he had a great time because he told me when he went to Belgium to see tobacco with you was Ernesto. I think he's one of the most humblest people that I've known. I've had a friendship with him for 22, 23 years. From the first day I met him, and it was back in '98 at my first RTDA in Nashville, which unfortunately a lot of people trying to find their room at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning in a 5,000 hotel room was really crazy. But Ernie, I mean, is a man that we all respect, that we all admired. I learned a lot from him, and I've said that on the program that he was the person that made me really understand the importance of binder. I was more concentrated all the time on wrappers and fillers. Even though I played with the binders, it makes a big difference. And Carlito and I have talked about it, and Carlito's talked on the show about it, the importance of the binders. Sometimes people only talk about fillers and wrappers, but it does play a big role. And sometimes it's the last thing that you're tweaking around to get that blend to really come out the way you really dream of or what you want to accomplish. So Ernie, I think with that as a man that I take my hat off to, a man that went through a lot of struggles, and he sold his company well. He could have been on a yacht or just golfing and things like that. But the same thing like Carlitos and Don Carlos did it, and Jeremiah and Rick and Heller and the Turrens and a lot of people, their love was tobacco. Their love was to make cigars. And I mean, to me, Ernie is an extraordinary person that I consider just like a brother.
Yeah, I agree with you, Professor. He's a unique human being and the greatest tobacco man. Great blender. You know, he's just, but he's a great person above all. And I'm talking the tobacco man. He knows, he feels, and there's no question that the binder has influence on the cigar. Changing the binder will change your cigar. Uh, you know, some binders could over dominate your wrapper. Binders could affect the combustion. There's a lot of different things depending on, you know, what you're looking for. But the binder does have an influence, and sometimes more than a leaf in the inside. I think after big influence as far as taste. You can make a cigar with more body and so forth by, you know, adjusting the fillers and more strength and peppery, but the binder it plays a big role.
It's true. You know, it's a funny thing. There's the things that Carlito and Ernesto had a little bit in common, because from I've heard, I haven't seen any of his videos or recording from Carlito, but Carlito, from what I heard, was kind of a music guy. He played in a lot of places. Ernesto wanted to be a drummer. And to be honest, Carlito's never talked a little bit about his days about playing and things like that. Could you at least give us 2 minutes of that? Can I get an autograph?
First of all, Ernesto Perez Carillo was as professional as you could get. He was great. I think he played with Stan Gettin, and you know, he could have had a career easily in music as a percussionist, no question about it. He's that good. But he decided to be with his father when his father needed him. And I admire that. And well, when I was in high school, you know, I started playing music. I played the trumpet all through elementary school, the marching band, the parades, the whole thing. But my parents' neighbor, well, in those days, 15 feet apart, you know. So I used to practice my album scales, you know, and you know, da 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 da. And I remember the lady used to, you know, before it wasn't a phone call, they used to yell across. You open the window, there was no air conditioning. Yell across the yard, Anna, my husband's a baker. He needs to work in the morning. You know, he needs to work at night. He's trying to sleep. Tell your son to. So man, this trumpet. You know, anyway. My sister Cynthia, she had gone to a state fair, and there was Arthur's Music School. They had like an exhibition where they had these Hammond organs, and they had this program where you could take it as a loan for 6 weeks, and if you like it, they will give you lessons and everything. And I started sitting on it, and I noticed, you know, you could put a earphone on, you put the rhythm, and I started fooling around. And I said, well, this is pretty cool. The neighbors are not yelling, this and that. I started getting into it. And my neighbors, who are great musicians, they were my neighbors and my peers. I mean, because I was never a great musician. I faked my way through it, to be honest with you. You could say that. But my father, you know, they had a band, and they saw I had a little organ. So then I asked my father, Dad, I want an organ, a real organ. And I got the organ, the Santana 3-Dog Night, a Hammond B3 with the Leslies and everything. And I played for about 10, 11 years in a band. And it was considered the best party band in Tampa Bay. I mean, I played every single week. I played every single week at every wedding, bar mitzvah, you know, company parties. We go back, Eastern Airlines, Christmas parties. You know, Latin did this, and all the Air Force bases from, you know, St. Patrick's up there in Cocoa all the way down. And I was a kid, but I loved it. It was a great experience. I had a Hammond B3, and it was pretty cool, man. See the people enjoying themselves dancing. I had a cigar always in my hand, an ashtray, and a Chevys next to me. And that was a pretty good thing. But I want to say a little story about this, because I can say it now. And that's how I got my first watch, paying $50 a month. But I remember that we used to make about $50 a weekend, and it was cash. And one day I'm about, you know, 18 years old, 18 or something. And my father tells me, hey, are you reporting that to the IRS. I said, Dad, it's cash, it's cash, it's cash. And to me, that was the world, you know, working that week and everything. I used to work in the factory and everything, you know, during the day and all that, and sometimes in the night shift during the week. And I didn't make much more than that, working my butt off all week and greasing some of the machines and, you know, and changing a lever and sweeping the floors and everything. So I thought, you know, and it used to drive me crazy when they used to, you know, deduct everything from your paycheck and this and that. I go, oh my God, Dad, this is not right. What's going on? Why you do this? You're my father, you know? And he said, no, this is the law. And I remember those $50 on that week. That was a very exciting moment, man. Every week when I got those $50 cash.
So you heard it, the man,
like Ernesto, same thing. I wanted just to have you mention Ernesto. Same thing happened. I played music on the weekends whenever I could towards the end. You know, I was going a lot to Nicaragua, back and forth. I come back, the band, we were good friends. I mean, these were great musicians. They were like, you know, #1 musician of Florida and this and that. Today, they're district attorneys, they're, you know, CPAs, business leader, very, very good musician. And they, you know, they covered, it was a group of 7 people, played everything from Chicago to polkas to paso dobles, you know, everything, all for all different ages. And I remember that I started going to Nicaragua, this and that. The band said, look, you do what you got to do. Whenever you come in, you sit in, and you sit in with us and everything. And the woodwind player who played the flute and the saxophone, everything was very talented. Played the piano also. He filled. I wasn't there, but it got to the point that it was really tearing me apart because I loved it so much. But I knew I would never be a great musician. And my love was back being with my father, and I decided just to stay with my dad. And I made a promise. Said, God, I swear this is the absolute truth. And I hope my children listen to this one day. To break away from that, because it's something that when it gets in your blood, the music, and you love it. But I don't think it was because of the music, but because of the enjoyment that you saw people in front of you in weddings and celebrations and everything, dancing, and the people just having a great time. And you're there providing that music that's having them, you know, enjoy. And like Ernie, I made a promise. And, you know, Cuban families hacen promesas, you make promises. I said, God, if you help me stop the music and everything, and you take this away from me, and I will never play again as long as I live, if you allow me to become somebody in the cigar industry and make my father proud of me. So help me God, that's the honest truth. I made a promise and I never played again. I gave my organ away to one of my mentors in music. I gave it away and I didn't want to see it again, everything, because it was a big attachment to me. But that was at a very early age, that was a commitment that I made. And, you know, thinking about it, you know, it has come true. My wishes have come true, and those are just memories, but they were beautiful memories. Thank you for bringing them up.
You know, I have heard the stories, and it's honest, I've never asked you, because some people say things. I knew you had played and all that, but to hear it from you like this, I mean, it's, I think it's very enlightening. And so when are we putting the band together again?
I don't think that's going to happen. Especially now that my best friend is, you know, one of the most talented musicians in the world. I don't want to, you know, I remember one day you probably saw it. They put it up. You know, he had his drum. I said, I want to play Cherry Pink. You know, and I used to be able to play that pretty easily. And I realized, man, the lip and everything, forget about it. I put so much pressure trying to get a note that almost went bad from the backside. You know, God has his destiny for all of us, and I'm very happy where I'm at today. And it's not much different, music and making cigars. You're making music in a different way. And, you know, it's that melody that you bring and you try to create in a cigar, that balance, the melody, the enjoyment. And I think if I could bring it up, that hopefully for my children to listen, something my father always told me, and it relates to music. When I started with my dad in 1972, I remember the biggest selling cigars were Bearing Plazas, Perfecto Garcia Queens, all these cigars. And Dad, why don't we make this and that and this variety? That would never work. And my dad always told me, listen, you do what you believe in, but do you want to be a jukebox player? A jukebox is one of, the jukebox. We know the old days, You want to be a jukebox player, or do you want to be like the Beatles, that create the music and write the song, melodies? You have to be yourself. Keep working and find. And that's one of the reasons why I like to do anything that has already been done, even though almost everything has been done. And I think that was those words of my father it was one of my motivations, create things, to do things differently, to find my own style, not to look what other people do, wish everybody well, and wanting our industry and everybody to prosper together, and protect those hardworking families, the brick and mortar mom and pop retailers in every way I can, because that's been my life, right? And that's where I come from hard work and a family, very humble beginnings, and that's who I want to be and who I want to protect.
I'll tell you a story. This is going to bring you back a long time, Carlito. 1985, Brussels. Was Lidiana born then or not? Or was it before? I can't remember.
Born in 80, no, I don't want to say the year.
All right, anyways.
1990. She was born in 80. Listen, if she's listening, she's 89.
Right. Anyway, I think it was before she was born. Carlito comes to Brussels. We just moved back from the States. My father had left Cuba. We moved back to Europe. And my mother had an old piano, very old, that she inherited from her father or her grandmother or whatever it was. It was probably out of tune. And I had learned a little bit to play on that piano. And I loved it. I absolutely loved music. I loved the piano. I loved instruments. And Carlito walks in. Back then, he was a young man. He was probably my age, maybe younger. And he gets on the piano.
Jeremiah, younger.
And he teaches me my first song. You remember what it was?
La Bamba.
That's right. He teaches me La Bamba on the piano. But the reason I'm saying this is not because of La Bamba. The reason I'm saying this is because, like many people that are intellectually, emotionally brilliant, music is another expression of the soul. And when I see gentlemen like Carlito and others who are so connected to music, it doesn't surprise me, because it simply reflects the bridge between this world and what we don't see, what we don't understand. The power of those emotions, the power of intangibles, which create the magic in the world. Carlito may have chosen to leave the music and to use that for cigar making, to use that with his product today. And it doesn't surprise me one bit that those who are very emotionally connected, some people call them geniuses, other people call them illuminated people, whatever it may be, those people are very sensitive, very emotionally connected. And I'm very proud that the guy who taught me my first song was one of these illuminated, emotionally connected geniuses.
Thank God, Jeremiah, that you didn't ask me to teach you a second song, because that's the only one I knew with 3 chords.
Let me tell you something. It's been 30 years or whatever since then, and it's still the only fucking song I can play.
Richie Valens.
I see it.
Now it's the time of the day that we're going to get on our good friend, Rich. And it's not going to be Benoit's Baked anymore. It's going to be Rich's Baked. Rich, you're on.
Okay, thank you very much. Glad to be on. And it doesn't look like the Pope is on today, because he's a big fan of a couple of jokes that I've told. But This one is quite a while ago. I lived on an island for a while. What was that island? It was Manhattan. And one day after work in the garment business, I was walking along, got kind of thirsty. And so I went into a local bar right near the UN on the east side. And it was a long day for the UN. They had a very special long meeting of the General Assembly. And I'm sitting at the bar having a glass of water, of course, with those wonderful little pretzels that they had there. And a whole group of guys come in from the UN and sit down along the bar. And the bartender goes up to the first one and says, "Can I help you?" And the guy says, "Si, I'm Italiano. I'm a tired and I'm a thirsty. I must have a vino." So he goes to the next guy, he says, "Can I help you?" He says, "Oui, monsieur, I am French. I am tired and thirsty. I must have a cognac." He goes to the third guy. He says, "And you?" He says, "I am Russian. I am tired. I'm thirsty. I must have vodka." Goes to the next guy in row. He says, "How about you?" He says, "I'm German. I'm tired. I'm thirsty. I must have a beer." The next guy next to me, he gets to, he says, "And you?" He's, "I'm Mexicano. I'm tired. I'm thirsty. I must have tequila." And he gets to the guy next to me and he says, "And you?" He said, "Well, to tell you the truth, I'm Israeli. I'm tired. I'm thirsty. I must have diabetes."
Very good, Rich.
Very good, Rich. Thank you very much. Hey, Rich, if you're going to have to fill Benoit's shoes, you're going to have to get a lot dirtier than that, my friend.
I'm ready if you are.
All right.
And who's the one that has the rum?
Mi cubano amigos.
Así es, Papo.
All right, Rich, thank you very much. We have two very special announcements to make today. The first special announcement is that the guest of honor this Friday is no less than Mr. Nestor Andres Placentia. This is going to be a very big show. He is an enormous tobacco producer, probably the biggest in the world, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the cigar industry. He is an unbelievable manufactures for about everybody. And he's going to have a lot to say, and we're going to have a lot of questions to shoot at him. So make sure that you attend the show, that you promote the show, and we're looking forward to seeing a lot of you out there this Friday. The next bit of information we have for you is that on the following Friday, we'll probably have the biggest show ever in the history of this show. We're having a very special guest on, somebody who rarely makes any public appearances, but is an unbelievably important figure to the future of the Fuente family and the Fuente companies. Ladies and gentlemen, not this Friday, but the following Friday, Mr. Carlito or Carlos Fuente III, Carlito's son, Mr. Carlos Fuente III, will be joining us for our last show, which will be held on Fuente Friday. As of June 21st, so we have 2 weeks left, the show will run once a week and on Sundays. Once a week on Sundays as of June 21st. And these are going to be very big. The confinement has been brought down in most of the world. People are back at work. So we are going to make sure that we can deliver this show from now as far as we can reach it into the future every Sunday at your doorstep at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Central European Time. The Fuente and Meerapfel present Meet the Professor. This Friday, Nestor Andres. The following Tuesday, it'll be probably just here, just the family. Then the Friday, Carlos Fuente III. And then we will move on to the new schedule. Sundays, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Central European Time. In the meantime, we wish you the best. We'll see you all on Friday. Take care of yourselves and of each other. Goodbye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.